Hello everyone. Or actually, let me see how many people are on here. I'm gonna get, okay, it's not finding the stream. Okay. Yeah, give me a sec. Okay, so we'll begin the live stream. I probably gave everyone enough time to get into it, but in this live stream, we're going to be timing tomorrow's storms, and we're going to be tracking Helene along with looking at the long-range outlook. Helene is probably going to be the main focus of the live stream, but those are some other things that we're going to be talking about. And real quick, it's the end of summer, but there's probably going to still be mosquitoes around, so I'll keep it around for a little bit longer. And tomorrow, I should probably up that to a medium, because it's going to be wet from all the thunderstorms. So medium chance of, or medium amounts of mosquitoes out there for tomorrow. And my non-expert opinion. And let me just double check the chat and see if there's anything. Stuff's been really slow. It's a white screen. I'll give it a sec. Okay, so I got some highs. Hello. Looks like we got some people in the live stream, so that's good. Well, first we're going to start off with the current conditions, as we always do. And these are the morning lows for tomorrow. I don't think... Apparently I don't have my pin, so hopefully y'all can see my mouse. I think you can. Let me double check. It's been a while since I've gone live, in case you haven't noticed. And I just got OBS on full screen, and I don't know how to get out. I did something weird and trying to get out of this. Okay, never mind. So actually I'll go offline for a little bit and try to get the pen extension on. And maybe let some more people trickle into the live, so 1 sec. I'm still here, by the way. I just need to get it. I'll let y'all have the mystery of behind the scenes. Well, let me just get that real quick. But while we're waiting, how is everyone? Is everyone doing well? I'm doing well. Okay, it's loading into the browser. And okay, I got it. I'll check the chat again real quick. Yes, I know. Good to see you on stream, I guess. Okay. I'll dock this to the side of OBS, and I'll get the screen back on. and it's still black. Sometimes it does this. I have to reinsert. It's a whole thing. OBS is a whole thing. It's great because it's free. It has lots of cool features, but it definitely has a learning curve to it. So you have to put that back on and get the screen back up for y'all. Bear with me, please. Let's see. Okay, I got something on the chat. Any other storms coming to South Carolina? So tomorrow we'll have some thunderstorms courtesy of a cold front. And then Thursday and Friday we'll get those thunderstorms and heavy rain from Helene. And I'll get into that more. Yeah, we'll get into the specifics in a moment, as soon as I get this fixed. It's doing weird things. Okay. Okay, there we go. We got the screen back up. So I'll put myself back on. I'll put that. Oh, it doesn't look like it's putting on my camera anymore, too. That's... Oh, wait, no. I just gotta move it. There we go. Okay, so that was a little bit of a rough start, but we're back on track. So I'll keep the monitoring the chat, but we'll go ahead and get back to where we were. So, like I said, tomorrow's lows will be in the 60s and 70s, so a very warm, muggy start. And, can y'all see me? I'm freezing up again. Okay. I got an assistant telling me what's going on. So more upper 60s and lower 70s in North Carolina and South Carolina, and tomorrow's highs will be in the 80s for most of us, unless you're in the Western Carolinas or North Georgia, where you see those reds. Those are 70s, and if we move a little bit up north, more of the same. And okay, so it looks like I'm lagging. It's doing some really weird things. Yeah, I think the internet's fine, so it's probably not that. This happened last live stream, so it probably wasn't a one-time thing. I guess I'll have the chat on my phone. Maybe that's what's slowing it down. And I'll look at it through there. Okay. So to me, it looks like I'm nice and smooth again. So let's go back to where we were again. So if we take a look at the radar, it got a nice little storm over there in downtown Greenville. Some more storms in northeast Georgia. Got another little cluster in central North Carolina. So a pretty active day out there right now. And none of these are severe, at least I don't think so. But the ones in North Carolina have a little bit more storm fuel to work with, so those could become something, but it shouldn't be any outbreak event at all tonight or tomorrow. But if we look at one of the high resolution models for tomorrow's storms, and it looks like I'm lagging again. That's a weird. Yeah, I can see that. Okay, I'm lag free again. I'm gonna try and move without stopping anymore because it's kind of taken up the time. If it gets too bad, tell me in the chat. But I'm gonna try and keep the pace fast. And it looks like Hayden joined, so hello, thanks for joining. So again, tomorrow's storms. We got some, and I'm using the wrong keys. So tonight, it looks like it will become mostly quiet after the daytime heating, which feels storms kind of goes away, and then tomorrow morning, it looks like it's freezing up again. Okay, so tomorrow morning, the storms kind of retreat back to the west into Tennessee, and I did not mean to do that. But then I'll actually put this to a more recent version of the model. Okay, so like I said, the storms fizzle out overnight, the storms retreat west, and then again, that does not go very far out. Okay, it's the same thing once again, and then tomorrow we'll see the storms go back east once again into North Carolina and Georgia before we start to get some of those outer rain bands from Helene, which is all of this. And like I said, I'll get into that in a minute. But here's a little graphic that I think is pretty important to show. And I've shown this before, and I'll show it again because, like I said, it's important. Lots of people don't know that the cone, they all think that the cone is where all the impacts are going to be, and that is definitely not the case. And I can't use my pen in slideshow mode, so I'll move that to the side a little bit. But here's the cone, and this is an example from Alberto at the beginning of the year, which was back in June, and there was a really tiny cone once this was about to hit Mexico. But if you look at the bottom right box of the graphic, you can see this orange blob, which indicates 40 mile per hour or more sustained winds. So if you want to write it out, it would be that. And you can see that blob is really big. It might not look too big on the screen, but this blob in reality would be several hundred miles away. And actually, if you look at the text box, it's 400 miles away. With the storm surge, or how far above sea level the water gets at the coast, that also was 1 to 3 feet in Galveston Bay. So the cone is definitely not everything, and you can't just go off of that and assume that if you're not in there, you're not going to get anything, because that is not the case at all. And I'll check the chat real quick to see if there's anything new. Actually, let me check on my phone. No, it doesn't look like anything. Okay, so if we take a look at the satellite for Helene, the reds, the blacks, and I'll change the color because that is not a very good color in this case, but the reds, the blacks, and the pinks are very intense thunderstorms that go way up high into the atmosphere and get cold. So the brighter those colors are, the colder they are, or the higher or the more intense the storms are. So I could write a little note over here. Well, if I click off of the ad. So the reason why I like going live is because I get to answer your questions, because I know it can be a little bit hard to follow, especially in the videos, but when I'm live, I can answer your questions and kind of go a little bit more into detail. But I'll put a little note here, and if you want to screenshot that or kind of put that into your memory, that'll be great. So white is not a very good color on the side of the page, so I'll change that. But blacks, you could even say reds, blacks, and pinks equal strong, and it goes off the page, but that'll be strong, intense, and or cold clouds / thunderstorms. And I'll drag that over here. Probably add a little enter so it doesn't go very far off the page. Okay, so yeah, this still goes off, but you get the gist. And that's a very important note whenever I show this on videos or live streams like this one. That is what those colors on the screen mean. So the center of circulation, or the little low pressure, is under all of this, and earlier was exposed, and you could see a little swirl with some thin clouds. That meant the storm was finding some dry air, which tropical cyclones do not want. And looks like they fought it off and won. And now we got some intense thunderstorms over that center, which is what tropical cyclones need to strengthen. So now that that's under all of that, it's going to strengthen. And by the way, this is Cuba, and this is the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. So if we look at the cone, it's going to show that this is going to shoot the gap. But we'll get to that in a moment. We're kind of breaking down everything before we get to that. But this is a very colorful map, and basically all you'll need to look for is the tropical system and the kind of the lines around it. And the green lines are low wind shear, or favorable conditions for the storm to develop. And you can see that it's in a very good spot right now in the Caribbean Sea. And it looks like it will stay in somewhat good conditions as it goes into the Gulf of Mexico. But that's what those colors mean. The reds, which are around the system, are not favorable conditions for it to develop. And like I said, it's not in those lines. So that's one factor to why it's getting so much strength. And then we have the very hot, almost bathtub water temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. And these pinks are closer to mid to upper 80s, I should say, for water temperatures. And this is in Celsius, so it's definitely not below freezing, because no tropical system would ever be able to survive that. But it's going to go right over that very warm water. Like, there's a little bit of a line, and I'll change the color. There's a little bit of an area right in there between the Yucatan and Cuba. And then a little bit northward from that, that is a little bit hotter than everything else. So unfortunately, it's going to go over that hurricane fuel. And this is the cone I've been talking about for Helene. As of 8 p.m., so this was updated recently, we have a 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm, and it's moving west-northwest, so something like that. And it's going to do a little bit of a curve through tomorrow and strengthen into a hurricane, then a major hurricane, before heading into the panhandle of Florida, which, if you do not know the geography, that is this area of Florida. And once again, I chose a bad color, so I'll change that. Right in there, that's the Big Bend and panhandle of Florida. And then it's going to continue into Georgia as a tropical storm, and then turn into a depression over Tennessee before fizzling out over Illinois. And one thing to note with this storm is that the cone is not that big. We've seen some chunkier cones before, but it's still a decent spread. It could go anywhere from the western tip of Florida to the southern Big Bend region. So it's still somewhat of a big spread. And even over here in Georgia, where the cone naturally gets longer as you get farther to the end of it. It could go anywhere from eastern Alabama or as far east as western South Carolina. So depending on where it goes, that's definitely gonna change our impacts. If it goes over us, we would have more wind, but not really tornado threat. At least in the western Carolinas, of course. Then if it took that track, it would put most of North Carolina and most of South Carolina too in the tornado threat. But if the light just flickered, that was probably lightning from that storm in downtown. But anyway, if it went in eastern Alabama, it could put most of the tornado threat into the upstate of South Carolina, where most of my viewers are from, and the greatest tornado threat. So, still a decent spread between this, but one good thing that we can take away from this is that there's good agreement in the models. So, we have a generally good idea of where this is going to go. And this is also another usually confused map in the weather community. And all this is showing is when the tropical storm force winds will arrive. And if you are in South Carolina like me, you would just look at this little sliver, and if you are in this blob, that means that you're gonna get more than 40 mile per hour winds. So once again, that would be your minimum. And it looks like we would get that overnight Thursday per this graphic by the National Hurricane Center. And another big thing about this storm is that we're going to get a ton of rain. It might be moving fast, but it's going to dump buckets of rain for sure, and it's going to be raining cats and dogs for sure. And we can see that with all of these warm colors, which indicate, if you look at the key, anywhere from 4 inches to as much as more than 12 inches, especially in those little tiny mountain peaks in North Carolina. But most people don't live there, but either way, it's gonna impact people outside of those areas. And even us in Greenville County, for example, we would get anywhere from 8 to 12 inches if you're, let's say, in Travelers Rest, or if you're more towards the southern tip of Greenville County, it would be still between 6 and 8 inches. So a lot of rain, and that's again, it's a trade-off between either having less rain and more wind, or less wind and a lot more rain. And rain is definitely a lot deadlier than wind, but still, like I said, it's a trade-off. And this is the flash flooding risk, and we have the second highest level of flash flood threats, which is a moderate, or at least a 40%, which might not seem like a lot, but it's the second highest level, and the highest level is high, hence the name. So another threat to keep in mind Thursday and Friday, and this is a very helpful graphic by a PhD student in, I don't know where, his name is Tomerberg, that's all I know, but he made this cool graphic which combines all of the models and all of their ensembles, or the kind of different variations of the models. So a great way to look at where the storm would probably go. It's kind of slow, but if we put this at I have no idea when that is. Let me search that up. So 600 UTC. Alright, so that would be 2 a.m. in Eastern time. So 2 a.m. most of the models have this anywhere from still in the Gulf of Mexico, or as far inland as already in Tennessee, but it looks like most of them are going to be in southern and central Georgia. And guys, don't forget, if you have questions, to put them in the chat. Nothing's really been there. Oh, I just got to refresh it. Okay, Helene says it's raining near me. Yep, me too. You can hear the thunder as well. but it's not gonna come towards me. I don't know where you are, but depending on where you are, it might rain, but doesn't look like nothing too crazy. And there's nothing else in the chat, so I'll move on. So if we keep this going, most of the models have this in North Georgia by let me do that again. Let's see. So 12 a.m. EDC to Eastern. Okay, so by 8 a.m. I lost my tabs. So 8 a.m. on the 27th. So exactly 3 days from now, if I'm correct, we have a tropical system in North Georgia, indicated by most of the models. So we're going to look at the deterministic models, or just one singular model, which shows one singular or single scenario. So this is the American one. It does lots of crazy things, especially in the winter, but it's still a relatively reliable model to look at. But if we look at this, this is, and now this is Zulu time, but I know this is 1 a.m. Friday, or at least 1 a.m. Eastern time. We have I'd say a hurricane still in central Georgia, which is pretty much unheard of around these parts. And if we keep this going, this is 7 a.m. Friday. We have still a hurricane basically crossing the mountains, which is probably a little bit unrealistic. And like I said, the GFS is a little bit crazy. But still, it just goes to show how strong the system could be. And it's showing some heavy rain over the upstate and the western North Carolina mountains before fizzling out in the Ohio Valley. And if we look at the European model, this is definitely more conservative and less crazy than the GFS or American model. So it's another great model to look at. But it shows landfall in the Big Bend or Panhandle of Florida, moving north, turning a little bit northwest, then bringing impacts to Atlanta as, again, a hurricane, which if you see that with the European, that's definitely a little bit something to be concerned of. But I still think it's a little bit unrealistic. I might be wrong. I'm definitely not the grade or anything, but that's still a little bit weird to me. I don't know why it's doing that. But it's showing a hurricane north of Atlanta, slinging lots of rain and maybe tornadoes into the upstate of South Carolina and North Carolina. Then we have one more model. This only does hurricanes, and it's called the HAFS A. It's also the HAFS B, so it's doppelganger. But anyway, it's a zoomed in look, but it's still pretty great. It's a lot more high resolution than the American and European models, but it shows landfall in the Big Bend of Florida as a, I think, Category 2 storm. Then moving north, bringing a tornado threat to the Midlands of South Carolina and the Low Country. And it's not letting me draw on this. Yeah. Or maybe I can. Yeah, there we go. So a tornado threat to South Carolina, then Midlands points south, and lots of heavy rain and maybe an embedded tornado kind of in this region, and I'll change the color again. And this region, which is where Granville County is going to be put at, according to this model at least. And here it is. This is 7 a.m. Friday, so as some of us are waking up for school, if you're one of my classmates, and then fizzling out over the mountains in Tennessee and becoming nothing. And looks like I got, speaking of classmates, I got one of my friends on here. So hello to you. I won't disclose your name just in case, but yeah, that was the HAFSA model. And speaking of that tornado threat, this is the Storm Prediction Center's outlook for Thursday, and it shows a slight risk or a level 2 out of 5 risk for most likely tornadoes. On day 3, it doesn't tell you exactly what types of storms they're going to be, but in this case, it's most likely tornadoes. So we got that slight risk, and then the low or marginal risk extending a little bit farther north, well, all around that slight risk. So most of Florida, going into central Georgia, through the Midlands of South Carolina, and close to Greenville. This isn't updated very often, and this will probably change. And maybe it's just because it's for Thursday, but we'll see. Friday, they might put us into that low, maybe even medium risk of severe weather. But that's what we have right now. And I'll check the chat once again. Someone put a reaction. I didn't get to see it, but okay, nothing in the chat. So if we look at kind of the ingredients for a tornado setup, because we are going to be on the eastern side, which is the dirty side, as we call it in the weather community, for tropical systems, because there's wind shear and the ingredients are there for severe weather. We have the winds. I'm not sure how high up that is. So actually, I'll search that up real quick. So 25,000 feet up in the air. So maybe I'll change that to miles, and that'll be a little bit easier. Okay, well, it only says 25,000 feet. I'm not sure. I think that would be close to a mile. So, I mean, if you're talking about the atmosphere as a whole, that's only a small part of the atmosphere, but 1 mile up is definitely high. But anyways, if we look at the winds for that altitude, and this would be the lower part of the atmosphere. So we have Helene there entering the picture. I'm not sure why it pixelates the western North Carolina mountains, but we'll ignore that, I guess. But we have the center of Helene right in there, where I have the L. And then all of these strong winds are coming out of, it looks like, if you're in the upstate, it looks like it will be coming out of the southeast. And once more, I need to change the color. They should probably give you a default one, because it always does red. But anyway, if you're in the upstate, it looks like the winds are going to be coming out of the southeast. And Midlands, mostly out of the south. If you're in eastern Georgia, looks like maybe out of the southwest. And if you're kind of in the Charlotte area, out of the east. So we'll keep that in mind. And now we're going to go farther up in the atmosphere, and this is a lot higher up, so I'll actually search that up again. Okay. That's 18,000 feet up. So maybe if I search up this. Okay, so about 3.5 miles up into the atmosphere, which is definitely a lot higher up. And if we look at that, at the winds at that altitude in the atmosphere, I have to move this to Friday. Okay, so this is about when we're getting the brunt of Helene. 7 a.m. Friday, we have winds higher up in the atmosphere moving if you're in the upstate, like in Greenville County, out of the south. If you're in the Charlotte metro area, out of the south. And eastern Georgia, out of the southwest. And in the Midlands, again in the southwest. So if we go back, and I don't know if it erased it or not. It went ahead. But I don't know if my thing... Yeah, it's safe. So if we look back at the tab from before, which is about mile up in the atmosphere. Eastern Georgia went out of the southwest, Midlands out of the south, upstate out of the southeast, and Charlotte Metro out of the east. And if we go back to the tab we were just on, the winds have changed direction, and they're a little bit weaker, but wind shear is when winds change direction and or speed as you go higher in the atmosphere. And that's what we have. And if you have wind shear in a tropical system, that's kind of shreds it apart, but it can also increase the tornado threat. So that's one factor into the tornado threat. And if we look at the storm fuel or cape, if you want to be fancy, if we look at that specifically, we have, this is 4 a.m. Eastern Friday. There's a little bit of a nose of storm fuel in eastern Georgia and parts of the Midlands of South Carolina. And then by 7 a.m., which is when we'll be on that, directly on the eastern side of Helene, Greenville County points east into, especially in the Charlotte Metro, there's going to be some higher cape because the sun is starting to come up. So basically between the middle of the night and early morning Friday, and even actually into the afternoon, in the afternoon, places like Greenville points west and south are going to start to be clearing out and actually see some sunshine by the end of the day. But it'll take a little bit longer for places like central and eastern North Carolina to get over the rain and maybe the tornado threat. But that's mostly for us in Greenville. So we have a little bit of cape. It's not the greatest amount, but it's enough, especially with all the wind energy. So if this holds, if the track holds, the ingredients hold, we could have a little bit of a tornado situation Thursday and Friday. Kind of like what we saw with Fred in 2021. We'll see if it gets to Fred's scale. I'd say probably not, but we'll see. Weather's definitely can change very quickly, and I've activated my little pop scale or the power outage probability to a medium, just because it's medium confidence. If it looks like this trend holds into tomorrow, I'll put this up to a high, but as of right now, medium confidence plus saturated grounds most likely, plus the windy conditions will lead to scattered power outages, or maybe even widespread if this holds. But now into the last portion of the live stream. It's getting kind of late. This is the temperature probability outlook, or just how your percentage or chance of either seeing below or above average temperatures. It looks like most of the U.S. is going to be kind of maybe a little bit of a heat wave. Doesn't look like anyone's seeing blue, which is below average temperatures. And if we look at precipitation, it looks like it's going to, at least the slightly rainier conditions are going to help us in the east. If we look at 8 to 14 day temperature probability outlook, which goes from the 2nd to the 8th, it looks like we'll stay above normal, and hopefully it's not too hot because because Weatherfest lands in the middle of that. We'll see, but that's what the Climate Prediction Center is predicting. And then the precipitation outlook looks like kind of the Hilton Head region, or Hilton Head area, and South Carolina through a little bit of Georgia is going to see some slightly rainier conditions, but it looks like about normal for everyone else. And the last thing we'll look at is the Global Tropic Hazards Outlook, which shows everyone where the highest chances of tropical storms or hurricanes are going to form through week 2, which is from October 2nd to October 8th. It looks like there's a 40% chance, well, more than 40% chance that we could see something in the Caribbean or the southwest Gulf of Mexico, kind of like where we're seeing Helene right now. And again, in the main development region, which is between Africa, which is this place, and the Lesser Antilles, which is there. And then week 3, which is the 9th through the 15th, looks like we could still have that chance in the Bay of Campeche or southwest Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. And the chances of development in the main development region are a little bit lower. But that was basically all of the live stream. Make sure to put in your questions before I close out the live stream. But I forgot to pull up the hurricane preparedness checklist. I guess we'll look at this real quick. Make sure to have your little kits ready. You know, you have non-perishable foods like nuts or canned food. Sure you have water, flashlights in case the power goes out, first aid kit, the general things, especially because it's going to stay strong inland, and yeah, just make sure, and also make sure to keep an eye on the forecast, because if you tune out today and you don't look back until the storm comes, you're going to miss out on some pretty important information, because like I said before, the weather changes very quickly, and with a storm like this, of this magnitude, it's definitely important to stay up to date, because we haven't seen really an impactful storm like that since Zeta in 2020 or Fred in 2021. Zeta was kind of a big windstorm, and Tropical Storm Fred, if you remember, for me it was 5th grade. The first day, right after school, we got tornadoes, and there were a lot of them. We got, I'm not sure how many tornado warnings we got, but it was a record amount. So it looks like we could see a mixture of both, like both storms for Helene. We'll see, but that was basically all that I had to say. I'll just keep an eye on the chat. I'll keep this live up until 8:50 in case y'all come up with any last minute questions, but the live stream basically ended. So I'll wait here for a few more minutes. Let me look real quick at the radar, see what's going on. I actually have Radar Omega. I was down on my Chromebook and I couldn't see, but I can see it on here. And oh no, I can't get out of OBS. Oh, okay. Almost thought my screen went black. Oh well, I'll have to make do with what I have, I guess. I'm not sure what happened with OBS there. It looks like we got some more storms trying to form behind that one that passed through downtown. Some more storms in northeast Georgia. Storms in central North Carolina. Basically the same thing that we saw at the beginning of the stream. Wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, no. I'll keep pulling up. We got 1 more minute, in case anyone has any questions. Okay, so when are we gonna know for sure? You never really know for sure until it's it's the day of the events, and even then it's still a little bit hard to know exactly what it's gonna do because the storm can wobble. But since we're 3 days out, we're pretty good. It's pretty safe to say what this storm is going to do, but we still got 2 full days to see what this is going to do, so nothing's set in stone just yet, but it's definitely looking a lot better than looking at a storm from a week, because a week in the weather world is a long time, and a lot of things change. Like if you look at, let's say, the American model in the winter, you see a big snowstorm and you get all excited, but it's a week out, and then a few days before it was supposed to happen, it never does. Well, snow is a lot harder to predict, but yeah, a week out is really uncertain, and you only really know until a few days before. But yeah, right now would be the time to prepare, because it definitely does look like we'll get those impacts. I'm going to try and get my plants all ready tomorrow, because it's way too late to go outside now. And really, that's all I need to do outside. I don't really have that many plants. I have them all in containers, so at least I can move them around. Maybe under cover, maybe in the patio, in the garage. So that's what I'm gonna do to prepare. Make sure we're stocked on stuff. Because if the power goes out, it could be out for a good bit. Because the winds are going to be make it too unsafe for the electricians to fix the power lines. It is going to be a fast-moving storm, though, so at least that's something good. Okay, so it's 8:50, 8:51. I'm going to end the live stream. If you have any more questions, maybe put it... Actually, you can't really comment on this. YouTube has it blocked for some reason. It doesn't have it blocked on shorts or on lives, so it's kind of weird. But yeah. I'm going to end the live stream. Thank you for joining and bearing with me. It was definitely a rough start. I'm going to try and go live again tomorrow for any new information that we get from today to tomorrow. But then Thursday night into Friday, it's going to be game on for sure. But yeah, thanks for joining, everyone.